Now this is pod racing. Woo! Look at that, I'm driving the thing like something not right. It's cool. So welcome back. We're gonna take these things off now. It's hot in those things. Man, I can't breathe in this thing.
Imagine how Vader's like.
God, poor Vader, poor Rick Moranis. Welcome back to ZMAM, Zombies, Movies, and More. Today we're going to talk about Star Wars and The Last Jedi, and it's not exactly, as Dustin said, the movie we were looking for.
Yeah.
So, again, we're welcoming back Dustin Shelton here to join me on our Star Wars talk. And so the first point we were going to hit on today was a little bit of this humor they try to interject. So,
I mean, right off the bat,
yep.
like, it was just so... It just pulled me out of the movie right away to try to just start off with humor with Poe. And so it's Poe and his little X-Wing.
And by the way, we're going to call spoiler alert right at this. I should have said that a second ago. We're going to talk the heck out of spoilers on this. So if you have not seen the movie, turn this off, go watch the movie, please then come back and watch us. And then if you don't care about spoilers, welcome. We're going to give you the real skinny on this movie. So to bring it right back into the humor. So we start off the scene.
So it's Poe and his X-Wing, and then you've got Admiral Hux. And it's not a dread. They in the dread. Yeah, they're
the dreadnought. So you got this new ship.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's one of the, it's probably 4 to 5 times bigger than a Star Destroyer. Yeah. They're even talking about it. They're like, this is the biggest ship possible. So you got Poe out there floating in mid space, like telling how there's a communique from Princess Organa to Hux, and Hux just said literally seconds ago, destroy them. No quarter, no mercy. Just give it to them. But now there's a call? Well, hold on.
Yeah, let's take this.
Let's see what's up.
And it was so awkward, like, and I know we were just talking about this, but it was like, he was saying, hey, we're trying to reach Admiral Hux, and he's like, yeah, this is Admiral Hux. He's like, are you saying Admiral Hugs? And it just seemed like a Family Guy episode or something. It was so
Not to mention they kept doing like, are you there? I can't hear. I'm like, come on, guys.
And I get like the premise is Poe's trying to buy some time, obviously, but
he was. There could have been so many other ways.
That's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous, and it was such a weird way to start the movie. And
well, they kind of make Hux look like maybe that's the point, but it looks like he's kind of incompetent.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's had his bloopers, but I mean, no doubt. I mean, he's supposed to be this strong. Yeah. He's supposed to be like one of the main admirals. That this is the guy. Yeah. This is the guy you go to.
Yeah.
So, anyways, but then you get to Poe dancing around in his X-Wing. Destroying like every single turbo laser possible. Now, if you want,
why do they need anybody else in the Resistance?
I mean, they might as well just let him take it. Yeah, just do it.
So I thought the way they framed him up in Episode 7 was awesome. Like, he was a great pilot, obviously. So he's in the sky above Maz Kanata's palace whenever they come in and kind of save the day.
Well trusted.
And it was like that fit, and that was cool because it was other TIE fighters. He was coming in and he was showing, hey, I'm a good pilot. Mm-hmm. But to go up against a dreadnought in an X-Wing and single-handedly take out all these cannons without even getting touched.
So I added some footage here in the background. I want you to take a look and see. I put some footage on Rogue One where the squadron rolls in there at the very end, and they're all taking on just Star Destroyers, mind you. Yeah. Nothing huge, just Star Destroyers, which, I mean, we're all like, oh, it's Star Destroyer. There's like 20 fighters trying to take on one, or maybe they're going like sets of 4 and 5, and they're getting pelted all over the place. But Poe, he's going to work this out because he's the best starfighter. Yeah. Yeah, well, so was Luke, and so was some of the others, and I'm like, come on. So yeah, if you can get through all that. So it really set the tone, honestly, that first like 10 minutes, I mean, it really set the tone for the movie, and I'm telling you, it's not the tone that you're really hoping for. You're like, oh man, you're just kind of shattered. You're like, okay, well, hopefully they're going to pick up from this, and they'll run with it.
Well, I guess I was expecting them to just pick right off where they left off in Episode 7, right? Okay. You know, Rey's handing Luke the lightsaber, and then like you come into this scene, you're like, okay, cool, we're in space, like something else is happening. Yeah. And then it goes into that scene, and it was just like it just totally threw me off.
Which I mean, a lot of people out there were probably thinking too, and we did eventually, but Empire, so it's the rebels escaping again. Yeah. Again, I'm not so worried about that because I mean, if you do something that works and it just kind of makes sense, because by the way, they're on the run a lot, so they need to get moving. Okay, that's fine. So yeah, it was just a big debacle. So the humor, that's not the only thing. It's just that first scene, but there's the scene with Finn, and without getting into too much dramatics, but it's basically when he wakes up right?
Yeah.
And they got this scene of him kind of running around with all these tubes from
like a back to suit.
The back to suit that's healing him anyways. Yeah. So, and it's like going all over, and he doesn't know where he is or what's been going on. And I get that, but they tried to make it look like he's just like this fumbling moron. Which I'm like, well, congratulations, you did it. And it was just kind of, it's just again, it wasn't funny. I was just sitting there like, well, I guess I should be laughing, but I'm not. And we're not trying to again dog this movie because Dustin and I are big time fans of Star Wars, and some of our other buddies. 9 of us went and saw it, and I believe a good 7 of them at least all felt the same way. That it was just this movie's tone, the things they did with some of the plots and stuff. We're going to get into in a little bit. It just didn't make sense. So the humor, watch for it when you're going through the movie, and just see if it feels right to you. Some things, okay.
Some humor worked.
Yes,
and I know I've talked to some family over the holidays, and again, like you said, 7 of our 9 friends probably had the same thoughts. Most of the family members I talked to over the holidays were in the same boat as us.
Yeah.
But some of the humor worked, like Luke on the island when he was milking that thing, and he was drinking that milk. Like what? It was just kind of so like. It was just a quick thing, right? It was like, that worked for me because it was like you didn't expect it, and it was like, oh shit, it was kind of the shock value too. That was funny, but like to start the movie out with that kind of extended scene of Poe and Hux going back and forth, especially, was just so out of place.
And that's what worked for Empire. It was so serious in the beginning, right? You felt, okay, these guys, they're hosts. They're trapped. They're not gonna be able to get out. This one, and again, if they're saying like, well, we didn't want to copy the same thing, well, I get that, but it didn't work.
Yeah, set the tone.
Set the tone right.
The tone early, and the tone was definitely not set.
So let's get past. So this is going to be, and we're not going from top to bottom of this. So that these are just there's a lot of the pet peeves we have. But let's talk about Superman Leia.
By far the worst part of the movie.
The worst.
The most ridiculous part of the movie too. And like I think it was at that point where I was just like, I just totally lost it and was like kind of spaced out. And I think I even missed some scenes later on in the movie because I just couldn't believe like what was going on, and it was just so like unbelievable. To see that.
I'm like staring off into space because literally, I mean, that's how you feel when you see it. You're just like, what? So spoiler away. She basically, her and her other admirals, vice admirals, almost everybody that's of importance. Admiral Akbar.
Yeah,
they're in this.
We'll talk about that too.
Yeah, but they're in this front cockpit area and whatever, convening. And so Kylo's coming in on it anyways. The whole place explodes pretty much. Everybody gets blown out into space. So you only really see Leia because you're supposed to focus on her being like, oh man, she's gone. And so she's floating out into space, and it's kind of like this beautiful send off. And you're like, man, clearly, Carrie Fisher, God rest your soul, but you're gone. So I mean, I guess you're probably done with the franchise. Hold on, wait. We see some fingers kind of twitching, and then suddenly. And it almost looks like the cold of space should be freezing her body completely, but it's like forming around her or something, like almost like there's a force field, maybe the Force, okay, whatever. And then suddenly she just kind of pops up and she's like, whoa, and just starts literally flying like Superman towards.
And that's what I thought. I turned to Belle, who was sitting next to me during the movie, and I was like, is she Superman now? Like, what's going on? And just flies into the deck where the hole was, and there's a locked door there.
Which, by the way, the chamber's been blown out, so technically, I'm pressurizing. Right. We understand it. Now, there's some other things around that, but either way, when that door opens, everybody should pretty much just get sucked out.
Right. And nothing.
But there's supposed to be some lane kind of and whatever. I love Star Wars, but I don't want to geek out too much. Like the force field causes some kind of pressurized. I'm like, whatever. No good. So they open the door. She gets in there. She kind of collapses, and they take her off. Superman Leia. So the thing is, okay, so she has powers. Yes, we always knew she had powers. But suddenly what now? Everything just kind of comes to, and she's like, whoa, and I'm going to die. I guess I might as well use my powers.
And I even, I've read a lot of books, kind of explaining some characters between Return of the Jedi and Episode 7. And Leia had a book called Bloodlines. It was a really good book, if you haven't read it. But it explains a lot about Leia's timeline when Ben is out with Luke already, so he's like a teenager. He's out with Luke training. Han is actually like off planet. Leia's still in the Senate, and it talks a lot about some things that happened there. And it's a really interesting story, but never once did it mention
because she went. She's the princess. She's becomes the future general. Yeah. So she was the political route. She never cared about the Force, and she never knew anything.
She was always connected to Luke, which that was cool, and you could see that in
Skype sessions.
Yeah, right.
The first of the Skype sessions, which I know people are calling that now, which is actually really funny. But yeah, this whole bringing Leia back in, and because I heard that her role in Episode 9 was supposed to be even twice as big than it's in 8. Which, okay, I mean, is she the last Jedi? I mean, or is it really Rey? Or there's a bunch of craziness talking. But either way, it was just very weird how they kind of kept her alive and then how they bring her back into the fold. And anyway,
I feel like if Leia could do that, then what's stopping Vader from like shielding himself and like still being alive somewhere?
Or flying Jedi and flying Sith for that matter. I mean, it always made me wonder, like, well, if they can make everything else levitate, why can't they make themselves? Right. My thought was, well, it takes so much concentration to make yourself fly around. You'd be just host. You know, you couldn't do it. All right, so there's our number 2, Superman Leia. Literally, I think we agree, if not the second almost most ridiculous thing in the film.
Part of me, after I watched it, I think briefly, I thought, well, maybe they were doing that to kind of idolize or memorialize Carrie Fisher a little bit, but I'm like, wait, they had to have shot that and planned that before she even died. So this was put into the story.
And I really couldn't tell in the movie if there was any scenes, because I thought most of her filming was completed, if I'm not mistaken. So I didn't see anywhere
CGI.
It was CGI.
I didn't notice any. If they did it, they did
a really good job. If they did.
I thought she was pretty much, she had done all of her filming before she passed away.
But episode 9, they were pretty much host, right? And I'm going to bring in the straight thing. So as we talk about all these things, this is what happens when you have multiple directors/writers taking on a project.
Yes.
So Star Wars, I guess they felt they want to get some new spins, some new feel and ideas. So J.J. Abrams, we were just talking about this, kind of set up this story and like pretty much set up for a slam dunk. Yeah. And Rian Johnson, instead of following the formula, I get it as a director. You get to direct a Star Wars film. He's like, no. I'm going to interject some of what I feel it is, and it just went a whole other direction.
And I respect that. I just think it could have been handled in a way where he could have interjected some of his style and whatever he wanted to add in, but like still stick with some of the plot lines that JJ had started. And that's what I think that's my biggest gripe about this franchise right now. And I found a newfound respect for Episode 7 after watching this because I had complaints with Episode 7, but man, after watching this, I went back and I'm just like, oh wow. I liked Episode 7 way better than The Last Jedi.
It felt more Star Wars.
It just felt more Star Wars.
Right.
But I feel like JJ came in. I think he had a harder job than Rian Johnson. He had to reboot this franchise.
Reboot it back.
And get you to care about all of these new characters, which I feel he did a pretty good job of doing.
He did. Han and everybody. I mean, Harrison Ford, even though he hates his character, I mean, he brought Han back. Yeah. You know. Even Leia and her kind of talking, whatever, it was very small, but
even Finn in Episode 7 was so much more likable to me, and then you get into 8, and I just feel like his character got lost, and they didn't know what to do with him.
I keep feeling coward in some sense, I mean, people are saying like, no, he's just trying to protect Rey and the Son. I'm like, no, I always feel like he's just running from the First Order. I'm like, oh, I thought we were past that.
Right.
I mean, he stood up against a Sith, no, not Master yet, but either way, Kylo. But now you're just like, well, I'm going to peace out again and go try and find Rey and stuff. Like, here we go again.
So I think my biggest gripe, like I was saying, is there was no concentrated story arc. Right? Mm-hmm. There's nothing that was set in stone, like for the trilogy to say, hey, this is kind of where we're going.
This is where
I feel like it was JJ come in and get the franchise rebooted, and then Rian Johnson just comes in and was like, I'll blow all that up and do whatever I want.
Which, believe it or not, I don't even know what I believe anymore, but they're saying that Episode 8 was being written even while, just before I think Episode 7 was being shot. So that, I don't know if I believe that. I mean, again, who am I to question?
If they did, then they really went astray.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody talked.
It doesn't connect.
Ryan was kind of like, hey, Disney, I know that Episode 7 finally finished. Here you go. Here's what I was thinking. But I couldn't be because the amount of time to go to pre-production and everything else, they would have had to have it done. But clearly somebody missed the mark.
Yes.
Anyway, so let's move on. Let's talk about this. Okay, so we talked about Leia, how she kind of gets out of the fold for a little bit because of her out-of-body experience, literally blown out of cockpit experience. It was too much for her, so she just had to rest. She had to go take a nap. Vice Admiral Holdo, which is played by the actress Laura Dern, which I believe was in Jurassic Park.
Yeah. And in Big Little Lies on HBO. If you haven't seen that series, it's a really, really good series.
And she's a good actress, you know, and
awesome.
Kind of had an interesting look to her. So she's this other admiral that wasn't on the main bay where it got blown up to space or like that. So she takes Leia's place, and so as the story starts to unfold more, they're hosts, right? So these ships are there's only there's the main home 2, if you will. So it's like their main base ship that's flying out, and they're being pursued by friggin' SNOKE ship and a bunch of other huge vehicles or whatever. So they're following them, and so now they have to figure out, okay, how are we going to do this? Because our shields are failing. They don't have enough energy to hold shields and keep warping. Because now, supposedly, which I didn't put this on my list, they can track you in light space or whatever.
Light speed.
Light speed.
Yeah, warp speed.
So
which is I just happened to watch Star Trek Into Darkness like a couple of weeks ago. I was like, yeah, that's kind of a same plot line from that movie. Which I guess they did. I read too. They referenced this in Rogue One.
Oh, they did.
So when Cassian and Jen are trying to find the plans for the Death Star, and they're going through all the archives.
Okay.
They had mentioned something about tracking,
which
was a direct reference to The Last Jedi.
Well, I like that better then. Okay. Well, at least they had that.
So I think they kind of set that up earlier.
Okay.
But
well, at least they got that going for them.
At least they thought that one through.
Yeah, they did. So this Admiral Holdo takes the place of Leia, and they come up with this scheme of how they're going to get out of this. But so basically, during all this, Poe Dameron makes a bad move earlier in the movie, which kind of he gets scolded and technically demoted by Leia. So he's no longer commander; he's captain or whatever else. But I'm like, this is your lead X-wing guy. The people that trust him, he immobilizes the people and makes them feel good when they're ready to go fight. And she's not going to tell them this big plan about how they're going to escape. So instead, she decides to withhold this information, and basically a mutiny goes down, where Poe and some of the closest ones are like, we can't let this lady get us killed. Which, by the way, she already has a plan in place, which actually could have actually kind of gone down and worked. But anyways, it was just this whole thing of her holding back this information. Do you agree?
Yeah,
Dustin?
Agreed, and it just seemed to me like, and we talked about this too, this character, I just feel like it's out of place, and where does she come from? Like, we see episode 7,
Never saw her.
When all of the generals and commanders are kind of gathered around talking about Starkiller Base. She wasn't there, never mentioned, and all of a sudden Leia's incapacitated, and now there's a Vice Admiral Holdo that was like, just came out of nowhere, and it was like it just seemed out of place to me to just have this person that had that much power where she's like next in command to Leia, which I guess they lost some folks in the bridge.
And we've only watched this once, but I'm thinking about it. So if they did lose everybody, and it's like if you're the next in command, even if you are just a captain, you are next in command. So okay, and so it was an interesting choice. But again, it was trying to further along the plot, but it just.
But if she was, it also made it seem like she was really close to Leia.
Yeah.
Because Leia trusted her.
Yeah,
like, why wouldn't Poe kind of have seen that relationship or build some trust there at some point? I don't know.
We do a lot of laughing here and snickering because literally during the movie, I found myself rolling my eyes at so many scenes. I'm just like, but every time I'm like, it's okay. It's just a movie. We're gonna continue on, and they're gonna redeem themselves. It was around 2 hours and 15 minutes out of 2:30 when I'm like, oh man, I don't know if they're actually gonna redeem themselves. They don't have enough time left.
This better be a long movie.
It's gonna be good, and it was a long movie.
It was a long movie.
I mean, which by the way, it did keep. I never at no point did I sit there and be like, I just want to get out of this. I was fine watching.
I think I've said this too. If this wasn't Star Wars, I would have probably enjoyed the movie and thought it was a cool experience.
Yeah.
But with Star Wars comes expectations, comes all this other material that has come before this.
Stay true to your.
Yeah, it just creates expectations that need to be met. I think for a lot of viewers and
of all ages. I mean, interject your humor. Don't make it too dark. And there was some really cool scenes in this. There's a scene where Rey and Kylo take on these guards,
the Praetorian guards,
and it was an amazing scene. Although we didn't really listen here, but they could have pretty much just smashed them. But there were many of them. There was like 12 or 14 of them, which made more sense. I never could understand why Palpatine only ever had 2 guards around him at any point in time. It's like, that doesn't seem really good. But yeah, these 12 or so guards pretty much all attack him at once, so that makes sense. They can't really use their force and focus. So very cool lightsaber scene. That's about the most of the lightsaber you will get out of this movie, by the way.
Probably one of the coolest
scenes,
of the movie,
Should we hit point 4?
Yeah.
Okay, so we were talking about Finn a little bit, so I'm going to let Dustin jump in here first, but we're going to talk about Finn and Rose and basically their storyline, if that's what you want to call it. So, go ahead.
So I think like you said, when Finn kind of came to and he was trying to escape, that's when he meets Rose, who her sister died in a bombing run early in the movie whenever they were taking out the Dreadnought.
So they were trying to build that connection, and the sister going out like she died, I was like, oh man, there's a lot of losses on the rebel side, right?
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, this feels good.
Yeah.
But
then it was like, so I think she admired Finn and saw him as a hero of the Resistance, and he was kind of downplaying that.
more humor. Like, oh yeah, I'm a hero. I'm a hero.
Yeah, sure, yeah. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing hero stuff when he was just trying to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, supposedly to find Ray.
She realizes it and she stuck tases.
That was pretty good. I don't, because she totally saw through his bullcrap and pretty much tases.
But then that develops into that whole like unnecessary plot line like we talked about before. So Poe doesn't trust Holdo, and they need to find some way to counter this ship that's chasing them and trying to shoot them out of space.
Right.
So that's when they get the idea to send Finn and Rose down to Canto Bight. There's apparently a slicer down there that could hack into the Dreadnought and get them through the shields without them seeing, so they can get on board and steal the device that is tracking them, basically. Yeah. And then get back to the ship and then get them out of it.
So you see this
pretty convoluted plan.
So you see the scene where the main home base ship is like flying, and you got the enemy ships right behind them, and so you just see this little blip, 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 and it was supposed to be them, I guess, on their little shuttle flying out and going to warp speed or light speed, warp speed. But it was just like, what? And then, and they're trying to play off like, well, those ships are too small, they can't track. And I'm like, this is, I mean, you have the most sophisticated stuff. You're the friggin' First Order, and you didn't see a ship go to light speed like that? Or, okay, whatever. So they get to this Canto Bight, which is this interesting kind of struggle because you have this high-end class society where it's basically just a huge gambling ring of just like racing horses, except they're not horses, and all these different races coming together, but they're like the richest of the rich. Yeah. And then you have the slaves. So you kind of see this kind of classes within Star Wars, which is kind of cool.
I thought that could have been interesting. It just seemed they didn't really play that up too much, and then
just a bunch of goofy looking characters.
Just a bunch of goofy looking characters, and I think they were really trying to pound that home for some reason. And it reminded me a lot of the prequels when I saw a lot of those characters. But I feel like it could have been written better and kind of played that dichotomy of the slaves and these rich people. And I know it kind of comes into play later on by Benicio del Toro's character that they're selling weapons to both sides.
I thought that was kind of cool because when he was looking through some whatever, and it showed basically that the X-Wings were being sold off, and then it showed the other ones, and he was basically just saying like, see, it doesn't matter. You guys blow each other up every day. Okay, his character was kind of cool for what he had, and which wasn't a whole lot, but it was the whole point of Finn and Rose going to get this guy. So they go and get this guy. When they get back, he ends up doing a little betrayal run, which is like, okay, you know, didn't fully see that coming, I guess. But it was like, but by the time they get off the ship, pretty much their whole experience going to Canto Bight and then back, it means nothing.
It means nothing.
It was a total, and somebody was trying to reference, he goes, yeah, but what about other Star Wars movies where they go off here to try and do this? Yes, they went off to go do something, and it usually had some point. Yeah. Endor, they went down to go destroy the generators, the shield generators, so they go, that had a point. Everything usually has a point. This one was literally filler. Yeah. It was filler. It was an extra 40 minutes of filler at the time with seeing things. Now, if they're going to bring it back in the next one, because there was kind of a very cool scene at the very end of the movie, spoiler, here we go, a young boy who was one of the slave boys we saw earlier in the movie, they're like telling Star Wars stories, and he's cleaning up, and he holds out his hand, and the broom just goes straight over to him. Very cool, showing Rey, it's not just Rey. She doesn't have to be the last Jedi. There's Force-sensitive people all over the place. Yeah. But they don't understand it, and that was a very cool scene when they talked. When Luke questions Rey, and he says, "What is the Force?" And Rey, perfectly done, stumbles like a fool, and she's like, "I can lift things and make people do stuff," and he's like, "Everything you said is wrong," right? But a very cool scene. Yeah. I mean, and that training from Luke, which we'll get to Luke in a minute here, but
would have loved to have seen more of that.
I know that's we'll get to that. One's definitely coming, but so basically, it was just showing that there are more Force people out there, and maybe even on this Canto Bight. Maybe that kid will come into play. Right. Maybe it means nothing. It was just showing, hey, we're still out there. The Jedi could still be. Because nobody wants to see the Jedi die out. So, let me see here. I have a note in here about Finn's final scene. So, okay, so this is a big spoiler. And again, it builds up a lot of emotion. So again, I don't like spoilers, but if you guys don't mind, we're going to go rock into this. He basically, there's this battering ram thing that's just this energy field. And it's destroying this wall that's pretty much going to...
Yeah, toward the end of the movie, Resistance finally lands on a planet called Crate.
Salt Flats planet.
Salt Flats.
Cool planet.
Cool planet, really cool. And then they find this abandoned, like...
well, it was a rebel base.
Or base cave with a huge gate that they've closed. And the First Order comes down with this weapon, and I think they referenced it as an old Death Star tech, is what they said. So it's like a a big kind of repulsor cannon type thing that I guess
big ray, just rays
pound through the door and burn a big hole through it and basically allow them to come.
So they're doing this, and they're pretty much hosed. I mean, these little rickety ships, because it was an old rebel base, so they have these little rickety speeders going on against these Grenadier-style AT-ATs. I mean, just ripping everybody to shred. There's no air cover. So these guys are flying in, so they're all getting taken out. Finn finally gets a break, which that could be argued if he should have even gotten that break because of how much fire. But he does, and he's making his way, and you can see, and he's like, finally, this is my moment. This is what I'm going to do for the Resistance. And just seconds before making contact, friggin' Rose comes in on hers and nails him. And just, they totally spin off to the side, which, by the way, is still in clear view of about 4 AT-ATs. Right they're just kind of looking, and they have this moment together where Rose is like, we protect the ones we love, or something like that. And basically, I's saying, which someone I was talking to was saying, like, it's not love. She was saying, I love you.
But yeah, she said, pretty much just said, I love you.
I love you, and kisses him.
Yeah.
And Finn steps back, and the look on his face of confusion was pretty much how everybody...
That's what everybody in the theater was.
Everybody in the whole world probably, well, except for those who just get it, I guess. But we were just like, what? Love? You guys met each other 12 hours ago. Right. I mean, you know barely nothing about him except that he tries to run when he can, but he was finally going to do something great. And okay, they had their moments, I guess, on Candlelight, but not really because there's so much action going on. Right. It's like, so... But okay, so she loves him. Meanwhile, the AT-ATs didn't blow him up. They just kind of let him do their thing. I guess they figured, hey, what the hell? You know, we'll just let them go.
And then they made it back into the...
and they got back inside. So, again, Rose and Finn. You know, Finn, I felt his story, honestly. I felt he was played out. I was like, you're not Han Solo. No. You don't have that character presence of something that's going to be. Yeah,
what makes Finn interesting? Like, I thought he was very interesting in Episode 7.
I did too.
He was a stormtrooper who was rebelling against everything he's known since he was a little boy, and basically said, I have to get out of here.
And he knows how bad they are.
Yeah. And they got out. And yeah, at that point he was like, I'm getting the hell away from these guys. They're going to kill me. Like, that's all they do. I just need to leave. But that was interesting. Like, and then, like you said, he kind of turns that corner and goes up against Kylo with Rey. Yeah. And like, I think it's interesting to see where that's going to go. And then it doesn't go anywhere. Like, what makes him interesting?
Don't you think he loves Rey in a way or something like that? See, and there's this thing. There's this Rey and Finn relationship, which pretty sure she just kind of gave him a hug and was just like, hey, good to see you, whatever. Like, I mean, she wants nothing to do with him, I'm pretty sure, in that sense. But Finn, is he still hoping?
I feel like that's there with him.
So maybe Finn loves her, but Rose loves him. And
classic.
Okay, so you love triangle. Maybe that's what they're trying to do. But it was done kind of awkwardly. I don't know. It's kind of like that ass-out friend hug. You're like, hey, it was good seeing you. I know you were passed out for a while, but welcome back, Finn.
But that's a perfect opportunity for Finn to have his moment. Go out in the blaze of glory.
Oh man, it would
take out that cannon.
I was ready to. I was like,
I was too. I thought it was going to happen. I was like, okay, great. He can finally do something.
Worthwhile.
Contributes. It brings his character back in.
And it would have been a hero for the battle. Okay. Absolutely. So as you can see, we're not too happy with how they took that. So Finn and Rose, variants. Rose, new character. You know, I want to like your new character. We need to introduce new people, but yeah, it didn't fully sell for us. Yeah. And Finn, just not sure where you're going. So. You know, we'll talk about this in a little bit, just briefly, but J.J. Abrams has a chance, I think, to salvage this trilogy.
And I think that's what it is. Like, he's coming in to basically salvage it. And I just think it could have...
You know what? And now this makes so much sense. This makes sense why he... I remember when it first came up, like I forget the guy's name, and who cares now since he bailed on us. But the guy who was going to do episode 9, he bailed, and suddenly J.J. Abrams' name came into play. I know why he came into play, because J.J. probably saw what was happening, and it was like...
Hey,
I'm gonna come back and finish this off. And you know what? I gotta be honest. Even if repeated Jedi, Return of the Jedi, I think I would be okay with it.
It's fine.
At least I'd feel good, and it would feel Star Wars, and I'd be like, you did some justice, and give us a little bit more other than this, which I'm gonna pull right into the next one. Death of Snoke, and we're gonna talk about Phasma too briefly. Snoke felt like an interesting, truly evil, diabolical character.
And more evil than anything we've seen is kind of how I expected Snoke to play out. Like, I don't know. You had the Emperor, who was kind of veiled, right, in the original trilogy,
right,
and obviously Vader, who was just a huge presence.
Very.
But then you have Snoke, who was identified in Episode 7. You saw his hologram, which you knew he wasn't like a giant character. I mean, people assumed that, maybe, what if he is really that big? Who cares?
Probably not.
He was very intimidating, obviously. You had this whole First Order, and you could tell, like, Hux coming in, like, talking to him.
Oh, yeah.
Always very nervous, very scared. So someone to be feared. And then they set him up pretty like.
And they show this guy when he's wearing this gold.
But the room he's in with all those guards and like when Kylo and Rey are in about the middle of the movie, you could still feel that like, holy shit, this guy is for real.
There's a scene where Rey she tries to make a brave move. She tries to take her lightsaber. She's finally mad, just anger, and she takes it, or at least tries to take it. Snoke overpowers her completely, takes the lightsaber around the room, nails her in the back of the head with it, which almost felt like was supposed to be comedy, but I think his point is like, nice try.
Yeah.
Do you really think that it'd be that easy?
I think it was more like a playful thing where just showing like how much more powerful he is than her.
So much more powerful.
And at the same time, like she's supposed to be this child of the Force that's like has all this Force power kind of running through her to kind of match up with Kylo. So she's super powerful too.
If not stronger, which they're playing it out to be. I don't know.
And like Snoke is just like toying with her. So it was like. So you start to get to that point, and I'm like, oh man, this is going to be great.
So we're feeling this, everything's going on, and suddenly, you know, he wants, I guess, Kylo to make his final transition by murdering and killing Rey. And so it's about to happen. Rey's lightsaber is kind of hanging to the side of Snoke because he took it from her. And so here it is, it's sitting there. And so while Snoke is pulling his, I can read your every thought and this and that, and I can even read my protege, but very much where he wants to strike you down. Yeah, he was thinking turn on the lightsaber and strike you down, except he was thinking about the lightsaber sitting right next to you. And you couldn't figure that part out, but okay, I can be like, all right, so he fooled you a little bit. So he turns the lightsaber, which again, Snoke, I guess he's so focused on them, he doesn't see this lightsaber turn. And when he lets it go, the lightsaber comes on, and then he pulls it towards him and it just tears Snoke in half, which, again, a cool scene, but I was like, what?
Yeah. A cool scene. If that were any other movie, any other franchise, I would have been like, oh shit, like that's crazy.
Snoke's dead.
But you build up this character so much.
Yeah. And, we wouldn't see a lot about him, right?
Yeah, you want to find out more about him, and it's like, boom, he's gone. And now it's, it's Kylo running the show. Which, I don't know. I feel like he needs to put his mask back on. He needs to fix that shit and put it back on.
Yeah.
Because he's just not, he's not intimidating to me as Adam Driver.
Yeah.
He was pretty ripped up in this movie, though. I remember that shirt, that one scene with the shirt off.
And the scars, I think they did that also to help kind of make him his
more
pretty boy face intimidating.
But I like the mask better on Kylo. I felt like episode 7.
He destroys his mask. He destroys his mask.
Episode 7, especially that first scene when he lands and he's interrogating that.
He looked feared. Terrifying. You felt like a Vader type thing. In this one, by the end of the movie, he just seems like an extremely angered. Again, let's not worry about the daddy issue thing because he pretty much took care of that one with Han. But now he just wants Luke dead. He wants it so bad, more than anything. But he looks like this young, confused teenage boy. I mean, maybe a little older. Maybe he's in his mid-20s. But he just looks confused. Like I'm like, but this is the main bad guy now. Yeah. This is the go-to guy. Hux. He's throwing Hux around the room like a rag doll, so he's nothing to be worried about. Yeah. So I'm just like, I don't feel it.
Which that's what I guess that's what he is, and maybe that's what they're going for, but it's just not as intimidating as like some wise Sith Lord like Snoke, who knows what he's seen and what he's been around for. And I'll tell you too, I told you guys, but I've read a lot of books in between, and if you don't want spoilers on any books because you haven't read them, then maybe fast forward a little bit. But
let's say 60 seconds.
There's a book series called Aftermath that happens right after Return of the Jedi, and there's 3 books. It's by Chuck Wendig, and I would definitely recommend you read it. It's got a lot of different characters that you never would have seen in the movies, but it also brings in some familiar characters too. Nice. But toward the end of that book series, it starts talking about the Battle of Jakku. Okay. And it actually explains that whole battle. So where you see Rey in Episode 7 in that big Star Destroyer, like that's because of this Battle of Jakku. And
the Emperor had a plan, right?
Yeah, the Emperor had a plan. So the Emperor basically said, if I die, I'm going to kill everyone because you guys failed me. You were supposed to keep me alive and you didn't. So the whole plan was to bring everybody, the Empire, the rebels, to Jakku and have this huge battle. All the while, the Emperor had another kind of apprentice. His name was Gallius Rax. And he was kind of in the shadows all the time. But once the second Death Star blew, he kind of came to be and took over.
That's cool.
And it was his mission to basically carry out this plan. And he was there on Jakku, and some other rebels that you'll meet in the books kind of came to thwart his plan. But
it sounds like a movie right here.
It sounds. They could make this a movie
10 times better than what we probably just watched with this.
But basically, he's on Jakku, and they like put something in the core of the planet to basically they were going to explode the whole planet and everything around it, which was the whole Empire, all the rebels. And Rax was basically charting a course, and Palpatine had been doing this for a long time, where there was a voice calling him from the outer reaches of space, unknown reaches. And he had finally found and charted a course after so many years of reaching out there and getting out there. And that's where Rax was going to go with some soldiers, and eventually takes a lot of these young boys that, there was another Hux, his name was Armitage Hux, who trained all these soldiers. And he took him and like all these kids basically out to these outer reaches, and that's where Admiral Hux was the other Hux's son. So he was one of the little boys who actually went out there.
I see.
And they plotted this course and finally escaped, and that's assuming that was Snoke calling out to Palpatine.
Rebuild.
Because then obviously you jump forward to Episode 7, and now you have the First Order who's amassed a force out there in the outer reaches of space. And Hux is obviously the Admiral, so he came from that group of kids in the book.
Yeah.
But like, that was the whole plan, was, you know, this power was calling out to Palpatine, and we're assuming that's Snoke. So it's building it up even in that book series. And it's like, oh man,
it's a story.
There's got to be some more to this guy, and it's going to play out. And it's going to be pretty amazing. And then he's just like, in that second,
and then
gone.
it's gone. So
and
we still don't really get to know much about him, except the future books, which will probably tell some more. But that we don't want the books. I want to know in the movies.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's. I don't want to think that it was just a ploy to sell other materials later down the road, like books and things to talk about Snoke. I really feel like it was Rian Johnson's call to like bring something different and bring a twist, which I can respect that.
Yeah. Because otherwise it would be the same thing.
You don't want to make the same thing, but like that's a big move. And to just kill off Snoke like that when there was so much material kind of building up about that character. And he's supposed to be all powerful, all present. He obviously knew about Palpatine, and Palpatine didn't know much about him. If there's something calling him, and he didn't even know who it was.
So maybe Snoke was even stronger than Palpatine was.
Which is what it kind of leads you to believe. But then it's like, how do you go out like a chump?
So he gets taken out. We're going to end that part right there because I know we kind of hit to death. But again, taking out a mysterious character that we'll never really know that much more about, at least for now. Episode 9 is not done yet.
We're all assuming he's dead.
Somebody said, is Snoke, and this was like an incredible source, like, is Snoke really dead though? Yeah. Hey, all I know is when they showed a close-up on him, his eyes were rolled.
His ass was cut in half.
Yeah, he was in half. His body's just there, and his like face is just like, so.
But unless he has like some crazy force power where he can just like manifest into a physical shape, and then
I mean, the Jedi can do it.
Once that one's gone, he goes into a new form or something. I don't know. Who knows? But I guess JJ can kind of do whatever he wants. But
he can make the man do whatever he wants. Honestly, to bring him back, and I respect. Then he'll show he's all powerful. Yeah. And then that could be like. And then even Kylo, wouldn't he probably shit his pants if Snoke was back and he was like, whoops.
Whoopsie.
Now there's a story.
Yeah.
Hey, mark this down, because JJ, please. We got something here. We could write this. Phasma, let's get on it and get off quick, because that's about how fast it happens in the movie.
Yeah, we'll rush over it. So, I don't know, man.
Great actress, and I forget her name.
It's Gwendolyn Christie.
Yes.
The actress.
She's from Brienne of Tarth. From Game of Thrones. Great actress. She was supposed to have this extended role.
Yeah, so Kathleen Kennedy from Disney was like, oh yeah, no, Gwendolyn Christie's going to have much more of a presence.
Anything but. Pretty much as soon as she sees Finn, it's like she's just infatuated with Finn, and pretty much, I guess probably because he stuck her ass down a garbage chute, which, by the way, how did you get off of Starkiller Base, by the way?
Right.
I mean, literally from the time
you're stuffed in a trash compactor and then the base explodes, like, you must have been hauling ass to get out of there. I don't know.
Or did she? I mean, she had all her gear on. Maybe like blew her out into space. She was just kind of like flying around, and then like they're like, "Hey, pick her up."
I don't know.
Anyway, so she's alive, which is okay, cool. But by the time she sees them, they do this kind of standoff battle thing, and apparently chrome armor deflects blasters. Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
You think they would outfit all those stormtroopers with that chrome?
Why does everybody?
I don't know. Maybe it's too expensive.
Too expensive, so you can't give the foot soldiers. So, anyways, she fights them. And you know, again, he kind of, what's he called, Chrome Dome or something like that? Again, more of that humor where you're like, this is supposed to be an intense scene. I don't really need this. But by the way, it didn't break from the intensity. It just felt like it was like, okay, this little jab at her. I'm like, Do we need jabs? You need to kill this chick.
Right.
Which he does, miraculously.
And you'd have to think, like, he has to have so much built-up hatred toward Phasma, right? Because she was his, like,
the primary
unit
leader,
captain or whatever. So, yeah, that felt out of place. And then the...
So she drops into it, which again I don't think they're going to bring her back a third time. If they did, it'd just be like what? I mean, they wasted a great character.
Yeah.
We could know so much more. A female stormtrooper in lead power,
right?
And she's gone. I mean,
and they did nothing with it. Like, and she's a great actress.
She is
just an intimidating presence in herself, right? She's a big woman, and in Game of Thrones, like she held her own against the Hound, like kicked his ass pretty much.
Pretty much.
So
and he accepted it. I mean, when they finally made a blade, he's just pretty much
I mean, you could have made that where you know, like it would have taken Finn and maybe somebody else to take her on. You know what I mean? Like maybe Poe's on the ground too or something.
Well, I almost forgot. You remember how he gets saved, right? Remember?
Yeah.
Finn's about to go.
Oh yeah.
Guess you couldn't guess. We'll give you 5 seconds here. Guess who comes out in some kind of like ATST style, whatever like that. Guess who's controlling it amongst anybody? Could it be Rose? No, not Rose. Could it be maybe Benicio del Toro's character?
Oh, yeah,
Maybe he decided to come back. No, who is it?
Beep, 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 beep. BB-8.
BB-8. BB-8 comes out. He's like
targeting, like it just blasting the hell out of people on this ST.
I almost had it. When I saw that, I was like, this is about the point. This is at about maybe hour 50 in. Maybe it was 2 hours.
Yeah, you're probably. Yeah,
you're getting towards the end.
2/3 of the way through.
And I was just like, oh boy, this redeeming is not gonna happen. It was the most ridiculous thing. R2 was always known as the droid of many talents. I mean, he had all those little gadgets, and even BB-8. I like BB-8. He's a cool little guy. But he's going to control an ATST?
Right.
What?
Yeah. That's pretty sophisticated for...
When I left this movie, I was so rattled from it. I was thinking about it for days. No movie has ever done this to me, where I've actually been like, contemplating like, why? I'm totally going against my who I am. I'm always like, no, it's their story. I'm going to watch the movie. I'm just going to enjoy it for what it is. It's not who am I to call the shots? Or I'm gone past that.
Yeah, and I think
I
was trying to convince myself after the movie ended, like, I think I liked it. I wanted to like it. But then the more and more I thought about it, it was like, I didn't like it. No. So there were very few parts of the movie.
We couldn't get Mike Franz out here, who's a beloved Star Wars. He's doing family thing over Christmas. But I looked at him as soon as the movie was over. I knew what he was saying. I looked at him, I go, well, that was a lot to digest. And he just kind of agreed, and we just kind of walked out. And his initial reaction, his score was a 6 out of 10. I said 7. And I think I'm going to still hold true. At times, I really wanted to go lower, but this movie was not awful. It's just some of the things they've done within the movie that just makes you just roll your eyes and be like, this is your choice? I mean, the writing you could have, all the writers in the world, but no, you have these directors who think, no, I direct, I can write, whatever. See, it's that ego. And instead of getting that help they need, they decided, I'm going to take this on, it's going to be my story. And see, it shouldn't be his story, it should be everybody's story. Yeah. And I don't think Rian Johnson did the true research on it to take on a project.
I think he tried, maybe it was he heard...
competent director, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good movie.
I think maybe he heard too much, maybe there's too much buzz about Episode 7 being like too similar to Episode 4, and he just wanted to leave his mark and make it different.
Well,
which he did that.
He did it.
He succeeded there.
Yep.
But it was just, it seemed so... And I think we're getting into Luke now.
Yep, let's talk about Luke.
I think this was one of the most like inconsistent to the original material when you get to Luke.
Oh boy.
It was like everything he did was out of his character, I felt like. So Luke Skywalker that you've known through the original trilogy.
Always be there for his friends and family, go in no matter what, even if it would be kind of leaning towards the dark side. Because people always thought, he's got on the gray side, let alone a light side. But staying with his dad, even trying to get him out after the Death Star was about to explode, willing to risk his life. And now you have this Luke. Yeah. This Luke who's run off and gone into hiding, who wants nothing to do with resistance or whatever, which again, I know some other shows have talked about, but you built a map for people to find you in case they needed you.
If you didn't want to be found, then why did you do that?
And when Rey finds him, I mean, he wants nothing to do with her. And it was kind of like, okay at first, because you're like, all right, and then think about where he's come from. He had this temple. He was trying to build up these new Jedi, whatever like that, and it gets cut down by one of his own pupils. Yep. That is a pretty big blow. Yeah. I mean, something that would take probably years and years to get over, if maybe not ever. Yeah. So, okay, I get maybe why you tried.
Do we know how long that, I was trying to think of that too. Yeah. So and it shows this whole scene, which I wish they would have focused more on this. So, kind of when him and Ben had the falling out, Do we know how long that was before like how long has he been on this island?
So here's my thought: if he was like in his maybe mid-30s or so, probably when Return of the Jedi was going on or whatever, and he's probably a good 60 years old now, if maybe 65. So we're talking what? We're talking 30 years. I'm thinking maybe 15 to 20 to get the Jedi Order started or whatever like that. I bet he's been on this island for a good at least 10 years probably. I mean, that's just a guess. Who knows? I could be totally off, but I think we can all fairly say probably 10 to 15 years he's been on this place.
Because I'm thinking like you said, there's a lot that happened, and it goes into this scene of which I thought was pretty cool how they played this off. But like, so Kylo obviously saw things a different way, and what had gone down was Luke had seen like the darkness inside Ben. He knew Snoke had him, and it was like so bad that he for a second kind of lost his cool and was over him, and while he was sleeping one night, turned on his saber and then realized like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I'm not gonna kill my nephew. But when Kylo like woke up at that moment and saw him and thought he was basically going in for the attack to kill him, and he reacted and tried to defend himself.
So remember, they show two versions of this, right? So they show, and I think it was Kylo's first.
Kylo's first.
So Kylo basically made Rey. They're doing these Skype sessions, which was kind of interesting and cool, except the one with his shirt off, which it's like, you're this dark, menacing character. What, you know? And she even does a little humor, like, could you please put your shirt on? Again, eye roll. Just do it. But okay, so they show this. So again, like that's the same. He draws a saber in Kylo's version.
Yes.
And then
he like even.
So he's getting ready to attack, and then Kylo sees what he's about to do. I mean, because he's laying down fully defenseless, gets his saber just in time to bring him, and then does some kind of force explosion type thing, which pretty much blows Luke off to wherever. And then next thing you know, Luke wakes up and the temple's on fire, and everything's with R2.
Yep.
Then, so now you're like, oh man, Luke maybe is a bit on that dark side, you know, and he's willing. But again, against Luke's character, why would Luke murder his own nephew when he could try to turn his own father?
Right.
So then you see Luke's version, where Luke, again, had his saber, was in there, he could see the thoughts and whatever, he's probably more powerful than Kylo, at least when it comes to the Force, but he doesn't do it. But I guess when Kylo saw him, and with his saber, he's like, what the hell? Kylo draws his saber and starts, you know, getting crazy, and then Luke is forced to redraw his now. Yeah. And again, it totally changed the story. A very cool showing of events, because we were kind of confused. Like, well, again, I thought that was good storytelling.
Yeah, yes.
But Luke trying to strike down. So again, now by the way, maybe he wasn't going to strike him down, right? Because maybe Luke's version is the true version. And I think by the end, that
was kind of left to believe that yes, he kind of lost his head for a second and turned on his saber. Yeah. Never really like fully thinking he was going to follow through, but kind of just saw it at the last moment.
So Luke keeps contemplating all throughout. He's trying to teach Rey. There were some very cool training moments, but here's the pet peeve of us. He was going to give her 3 lessons. 3 lessons to learn the Force. And through these 3 lessons, it's like, are you kidding me? Yeah. I mean, even you had a little bit more time with Yoda, and you still weren't even that well trained of a Jedi. And when you're going to give her 3 and just send her on her way, I mean, you might as well just say, hey, go join the dark side and good luck. And plus, here's a few tips on the way. So instead, she's going on the islands. There's this dark hole type thing that she goes and explores, and a very cool scene where she's in the Force, her eyes are closed, and Luke's trying to lead her through, almost kind of like this psychiatric session or whatever like that. And Rey like breaks the rock, and she sees the ocean, and she's telling her what she sees, and then she says, "I see dark, and it's cold." And she's like going towards this little pit hole in the island, and it's dark as hell. And she wouldn't stop, and it was really intense because Luke starts screaming. He's like, "Rey!" You know, he's screaming to her, and finally she wakes up, and he's like, "You immediately went for the dark." You know, so now you're like, "Whoa!" So Rey's got dark side tendencies. Luke's over here freaking out. Yeah. But then it just kind of died from there. Yeah. They didn't really go into it anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I felt like if they would have played up more of like, if they could have shown more of like Luke and Ben and some of that history, I feel like that would have just worked with the story a lot better. And cut out some of the other stuff that we kind of already talked about that just seemed like unnecessary filler. But
because there wasn't that much training with even Luke and Yoda, so it's not like you're even really repeating that. I mean, she needs to be trained. Yeah. Let's see some training. Yeah. And so other than lifting rocks and
swinging a saber at a big
stone and then slicing it in half, which was cool. But again, it's like.
But like I think my initial thought was if Luke was on this island for that long, let's say 10 years, that's so outside of his character to just sulk for 10 years and like
leave his sister and
everybody else like fending for their lives. If maybe after all that happened, there was a lot to take in. He goes for maybe like a few months and collects himself. He's coming back. Like,
a year
maybe, but like there's no way he's just going to isolate himself and let all of the people he still cares about like
die like that.
Die and be jeopardized by this presence now. He knows about Snoke, obviously. He knows that
Yeah,
Ben was turning towards Snoke.
Who's going to take on Snoke?
So who's left? Like, you're just going to leave everybody to fend for themselves. Like, that's just not...
We were waiting to see a Luke who, and if you want to see him torn, okay, because we're all vulnerable, and Luke was very vulnerable, and some say he wasn't very strong. A lot of people love Vader so much. I love Luke. It was his story. It was his story. Yeah. And I just wanted to follow him through this. But this is not the Luke I wanted to see come back to. This one who's just coward and run. Like, no. And by the time we get to the ending scene, he pulls off this, again, major spoiler here, but this is what happens at the end. So he shows up. The Resistance are behind that wall we were talking about earlier with that Death Star kind of cannon kind of battering it to hell. They're pretty much about to get obliterated. And Luke comes out of nowhere down the staircase, which of course everybody's like, why did he get there? Well, now we know. So he goes down, he kisses Leia, kind of a beautiful scene or whatever like that, and he goes out to face the First Order, literally, him himself, and a lightsaber. So he's going out there, we're all just like, what?
What the hell?
Yeah. And then of course, Hux wants to just blow him away, and then I guess Kylo gives the order, and so they just start pounding him with all of these AT-ATs.
All their ammunition.
Just and by the way, a beautiful. I mean, the Salt Flats area, it's like a white area, but when it gets disturbed, it turns red.
Yeah.
I mean, the battlefield. By the time they're done, it was one of the most beautiful battlefields I'd ever seen. It's just torn to hell, and they're just pounding. They're pounded. And by the way, Adam Driver, credit to you. His intensity, he's like, kill more and more, and they're just firing, and finally, Hux is like, okay, enough of this crap. So they stop, and Luke walks out. So now we're like, by the way, to me, I wasn't like eye roll. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell?
What's happening here? And again, we're like, so now we're finally seeing something. And so Kylo comes down.
And what about this?
Oh, go ahead. Oh, does he
see that?
I was really like a little Morpheus, like, like, come on, make your stop.
Once again, humor that may have been out of place there too, but it wasn't breaking anything.
It did feel bad because Luke, he always had kind of a smart alecky side to him, and stuff. So he kind of brushes off.
He just walks out, brushes his shoulder.
So Kylo comes out. We're about to see. We're gonna have an epic lightsaber battle, something like that. No, there's a couple swings that go down. Luke dodges them very awesomely, by the way. But Luke's not even there. We find out.
Yeah.
He's not there. He's pulling, which it took me a minute to understand what was happening there. But it's not that he was just, I think, teleporting himself. I think he was pulling a huge Jedi mind trick, in a way. And in a sense that he was projecting himself, making him think, Kylo was so focused that I want him dead. He wasn't even realizing what was even going on. Yeah. And Luke here is meditating and mind tricking himself into this position where it pretty much looks like he's there and doing the job. And so, he go ahead and finish off this, and I've talked enough on this. So.
Yeah, no, so it shows him meditating on the island still.
So after they take the swing, so let's lead right up to the island. So remember, so he's, they're standing there, Luke's got a saber, and so Kylo gets ready to run in, and I'm like, no, they're gonna do the Obi thing or like that, and he does slice through it, except Luke is still standing there. Sorry, I just want to make sure we hit on that one first. So Luke's still standing there, so I'm like, well, wait, what's going on here? He's not lightsaber proof. And that was the whole thing. He was doing the Jedi.
And that's when Kylo was kind of like, what the hell's going on? And then it cuts to Luke.
So basically, Luke spent enough time with them to keep them occupied, which makes Kylo look like an idiot, of course. And then the rebels were able to get free through the use of the Millennium Falcon. So now, after we get all past this, Dustin, you take the end.
Yeah, so it cuts to Luke kind of meditating on this rock on the island still. Which, by the way, I want to mention the shot of the X-Wing on the island underwater. Like, that totally leads you to believe that
he was going to lift it.
He's going to lift it, and that's how he's going to come and save everyone, right? Yep. And maybe that's what Rian
There's this beautiful shot looking off the cliff, right?
Deceive you, but like everybody in that theater thought, oh, he flew the X-Wing in, he's there, he's here to fight and save everyone.
But he wasn't there.
No, he was just meditating on a rock, and then it shows like a cool scene of the sunset, and then like all of a sudden, boom, he's gone. His clothes fall down. And that's it.
So he pieced out pretty much as the Jedi can. He said he was there to die, and I know why he did it, because, there's some things like Kylo knew where they were. He now knew where Luke was, so they would have gone and obliterated that island, so he'd be dead either way. But I'm like, you still had your X-Wing, though, something you could have gotten away.
Yeah.
And for you just to piece out and not even stick around, again, Leia is not out of trouble. Nobody showed up, by the way. When Leia called out, she makes this distress call to the outer reaches for anybody to come and save them. Nobody came.
Yeah.
Which again shows you the whole plight of the whole rebel resistance, right? Always such a small few giving their lives for such a huge cause. Yeah. But nobody came. And so your sister's almost alone, other than, what were there, like 12 guys in that room, other than Finn and them?
Yeah.
And so Luke just pieces out. Again, not something Luke would have done. No. He's not going to let Leia take this on by herself. And by the way, And then if you're saying, well, he won't, he'll be back in his ethereal form, whatever, when he's blue, and just like, because Yoda came back, that was a cool scene too, but let's not get on a tangent, but yeah, Luke, he just peaced out. So yes, he will absolutely be back in episode 9, but just as this, and they're supposed to be all powerful when they're in that form too, but again, we never really saw the all power, except Yoda, he can do lightning apparently.
Right. But you come back, like, we've seen them come back and like have teaching moments, right? But it's not like they're super present, and
it's
I don't know, to me, it just seems like you bring Luke back and have him rejoin the rebellion. Rejoin the rebellion,
yeah, and let's see a final good hoorah with him and make him some ultimate sacrifice there towards the end.
Yeah.
So,
which they like you kind of mentioned it too, back to Canto Bight and the children there. So like it creates this mythos of a legend for Luke,
right?
And you have kids playing with these figures and
telling the
stories of, hey, I'm Luke Skywalker, I saved the rebellion. So that served the purpose of igniting the spark, I would say.
It is
the rebellion, but like I just feel like you still could have done that with Luke coming back
being alive. What's more exciting than that?
Right.
He's back and he's alive.
He's back. He's alive. And now he's still training Rey or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, and maybe he sees through his errors of, like, okay, I failed. But remember what Yoda said. Yoda makes this comment. He goes, failure, the main teacher of us all, or something like that. I misquoted that. But it's basically just saying, of course we fail. Sure. And that's the point. And I think that's the thing Luke never fully understood. It's not about failing and like, I'll never recover from this. It's like, fail, yes, and then get back up on your feet and move forward. Batman, get on your feet.
Why do we fall?
Why do we fall? What a beautiful line. I love that from the movie. The music, everything. Yeah. This is what this moment was supposed to be. And again, he just kind of rolls. So, obviously, I think Abrams is going to do something cool with Luke, bringing him back. He will not let us down. But we got some major things to make up for here. Go ahead. What's your score, I think, overall for The Last Jedi, Dustin?
Yeah, like, I think I gave it a 7 the night we watched it. I think after reflecting, I'm down to a 6.
Okay.
Just too many holes and errors with the story and going in directions that just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
A beautiful movie, like I said.
It looked great.
Any other franchise, I probably would have really enjoyed it.
Fifth Element 2 or something, maybe with Leia just making an appearance or something.
I still enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
I had all these expectations in my head of where the story was going to go from JJ setting it up, and like a lot of those plot lines and like a lot of those opportunities just totally got shit on. So
see you later.
I'm at a 6.
At a 6. I started with a 7. I was going to go drop this. I'm going to give it a 6.5. So it's not much better. So as you can see, this is pretty much where our group of buddies all ended out overall, I'd say. I just want to say that, how do you go from, I want to call it almost a masterpiece like Rogue One. I was just watching a little bit ago with my boys, and I'm watching my boy Mason watch it. He's just excited. He's asking all these questions, and I'm gonna go show him. We're gonna go watch. We're gonna go see it again. So I'm not gonna crap on the movie. We're gonna pay more money to go see it a second time. But I'm gonna watch it again and really, try to focus in on a lot of stuff because it's happening so fast, right? So much. But I want to see Mason. I want to hear his thoughts. And yeah, he's only 6 years old, but he's smart and he learns things. And I want to hear what his thoughts are on it too.
Yeah.
So, do you have any other
thoughts? No, I agree. To go from last year's Star Wars offering of Rogue One, which was, I felt, one of the, it's almost one of the best.
It's one of the better ones.
Star Wars movies, period.
So exciting.
And it just felt like Star Wars. Like everything about it was Star Wars. To come into this, which just seems like, I don't know, it just felt so offbeat. And
not quite the Star Wars.
Not the Star Wars experience that that I was expecting it to. So.
When the Star Wars logo first came up, literally, I took like a deep breath. I was just like,
I know.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go. And by the end, I don't even think I was breathing. I think I stopped breathing for a few moments. Just
needed some CPR.
I was thinking about it, but anyway, that's I think that's our review on the Star Wars here.
Yep.
I want to thank you guys for coming out and taking a watch on this video. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy what you're watching. We're going to be back next time to talk about the movie Bright.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, so Dustin I had heard about it, but Dustin kind of was like, hey, let's watch this and let's give a review. So coming soon to you, and I say adios, and we'll see you next time.
All right, catch you later.